Sega has done the unthinkable. Hello everyone, I'm OCDsaster, and this is OCDsaster Blue, my Sonic exclusive channel, where everything we do here is Sonic related. So if that sounds like something your speed, consider subscribing and checking out some other videos after this one. In today's video, I'm going to be discussing something that Sega did that I can actually really commend and applaud. But to do that, we have to go back to the year of 2025 into 2026, in which Sega announced that they were going to be doing a Super AAA game, where they were working on multiple projects that were AAA video games that were all live service models to combine different elements of free-to-play games, microtransactions, and NFTs. And they announced a few days ago that they have canceled the project due to poor performance of other free-to-play games, some of their mobile games, the live service games that they already had running. They realized that this was not a sustainable model and decided to cancel the project. But unlike other companies, instead of just laying off all of the people and teams working on this project, they actually did something completely different. You see, the gaming industry is very volatile right now. Game developers, designers, writers, voice actors, and artists usually get screwed when the game succeeds or fails. What I mean by that is you hear all these companies laying off workers and people that have worked on games when the game is successful because they want to get all the profit they can to their shareholders, and so they lay off everybody once their game gets a bunch of critic praise and has a bunch of sales. On the other hand, if a game fails and doesn't perform well, then they lay off the teams and developers there. It seems like the only way you're safe in the gaming industry is if you are a high executive or you are one of the shareholders in these companies. Everyone else be damned, because at any second you could be laid off for a bunch of different reasons. However, Sega did something that a lot of video game companies don't do, and they didn't fire their team members and the people working on these games and projects. Instead, they reallocated them to different projects. They had them working on stuff throughout the Sega Corporation, meaning no one got fired. They actually just got moved to continue their job and continue getting paid to provide for themselves and their families. And I think this needs to be praised and talked about more because it's so rare these days. A lot of these companies, as I said prior, they do not care, and if a game is super successful or an absolute failure, it's always the devs and the creatives that get destroyed in the process. Not to mention, we have so much AI and other things in the tech industry that's trying to take over. This is just some news that is a breath of fresh air for multiple reasons. The first being that they didn't lay anyone off. I'm glad that no one lost their jobs and people got to stay working with Sega, but also that we're not getting any of this live service slop. And what I mean by that is the video game industry is a billion-dollar industry, meaning that there's tons of corporations that are just trying to chase trends and just get the bag. And when Fortnite blew up on the scene, it kind of changed the entire video game landscape, and a lot of companies started to trend towards the model of free-to-play, massive, PvP with microtransactions and an aggressive storefront to bring in the money. And for some companies and corporations, it was able to work. But for a lot of them, especially the ones that are behind and late to the game and are just now developing these kinds of games, they are not doing too well. You have games like Concord or Marathon that are absolutely failing because I believe it's an oversaturation of the market, and a lot of players are tired of these types of games, especially the ones that are out because they're all pretty uninspired. Either they're extraction shooters, they're battle royales, or they're a Call of Duty-like game with designs that just aren't that inspired or fun. Don't get me wrong, there are some that come out that are a little bit of a diamond in the rough and do get some traction, but as of late, it seems like a lot of these free-to-play models that are, being released by these corporations are failing tremendously. We're talking millions upon millions of dollars that are being used to develop these games, and then the game just ends or shuts down within a month's time, a year if they're lucky. But just look at the example of the Arkham series, the Rocksteady that created the Arkham Asylum games that were really, really good and well received as single-player games. Then Warner Brothers Games told them, hey, you need to now make a free-to-play live service game. I don't even know, was it actually free to play? I can't remember if you actually had to pay money to even get the game. But then on top of that, it was, a live service game where you were it was a looter shooter, and the content was not great, and it was just kind of something a lot of fans have already seen before. It completely went away from the original mission and vibe of the beloved single-player Arkham games, and the game crashed and burned for it. You have all these corporations making these calls and forcing these game developers to move the vision and the passion away from what they want to do to these live service model games, and it's just not working out. Then you have indie games that are coming on the scene with smaller teams getting all the awards and accolades, and it's just a really good time to see these people thrive. These smaller underdogs do what they need to do and make games for only $1 to $2 million versus the bloated $500-600 million games. And it makes me wonder, where is all this money going towards? I know we've had this issue with Hollywood for a while where movies are just inflating to astronomical prices to be produced, but video games as well. It's just taking up a lot of resources and a lot of money. And it's funny because the prices of the games are going up to make up for the price of developing the game, but then they're also adding a bunch of AI and other things into these games to have less workforce. So they're making these games for cheaper, so that money has to be going somewhere else, and then we're fronting the bill. It's a little bit suspicious, but I'm not going to go too tinfoil hat in this video. I'm not quite sure if there was a plan for a AAA free-to-play Sonic game that was a live service. I don't really even know what that would look like, and quite frankly, it probably wouldn't be good. A few months ago, I did a video on what if Sonic was a hero shooter, similar to that of Marvel Rivals, because it proved that you can have melee combat characters in a shooting game. And although the concept seemed fun and it was really cool to have ideas and brainstorm, I really do think that is a tired type of, game. We just had the release of, it wasn't Concord, it was, what was it even called? The people that did Apex Legends. High Guard. That was a new type of hero shooter, and it died on impact, dead on arrival, because we're all very tired of the same thing. We want new, innovative games, and it could be multiplayer if it's a unique idea, but I think there's actually more constraint with multiplayer games versus single-player games, which is where Sonic is just the most prevalent in Sega. In my last video, I discussed the potential for the next AAA Sonic game, and I definitely see that being a single-player experience. Although I would love to have a co-op sort of situation, I just don't think that that really fits with the whole vibe of Sonic. You want to be in control and run around and just have a lot of fun. The only true potential I see for a live service Sonic game would be something similar to like Club Penguin, or not World of Warcraft because that's a little bit too many mechanics and stuff, but like a dumbed down version where you could create your own avatars similar to that of Sonic Forces, but with a lot more customization, have your own Sonic OCs, running around, doing errands, traveling to different Sonic worlds. I could see that possibly happening, but then there's so many other issues that come along with that. I mentioned Club Penguin at the beginning. That has a lot of controversy, a lot of just weirdos online, and making it a live service Sonic game means that you're allowing, people to communicate with one another, and I don't know if Sega wants that look in the Sonic branded franchise, to be honest. I know I wouldn't want that to happen because it's already kind of muddied with certain groups on the internet. So what do you guys think? Do you think that Sega was trying to develop a live service free-to-play Sonic game with multiple people playing it at once in like a global server? I'd be interested to know your thoughts and opinions down below, along with what you think of this news in general. I personally find it very nice and refreshing that Sega is taking the time to keep their employees around instead of just soullessly laying them off in order to meet some deadlines and to satisfy stakeholders. I think they were very smart in a business sense. They saw the writing on the wall and saw that a lot of consumers and audiences are not buying in to these live service free-to-play games, and so they decided to pivot at a time where they won't be losing as much money as if they did spend on marketing and releasing all these things just for them to potentially fail. But yeah, I'd love to hear your thoughts below. That being said, I'm OCDsaster, and I hope you have a super Sonic rest of your day. See ya.